Great stuff.
That is brilliant. He is champion of the world.
Some F1 drivers earn their nicknames through sheer dominance, others through absolute chaos. From a driver so aggressive he was named after a Hollywood action star, to another whose crashes were so frequent he became a meme, these nicknames tell a story of talent, madness, and everything in between. But where did they really come from, and which one is the most fitting? Let's dive into the wildest, funniest, and most legendary F1 nicknames of all time. Mad Max, Max Verstappen. Some drivers are fast, some are aggressive, and then there's Max Verstappen, so intense on the track that he earned the nickname Mad Max. From the moment he burst onto the Formula One scene, Verstappen's driving style was nothing short of fearless. He didn't just overtake, he bullied his way through the grid, often leaving his competitors fuming in the process. His wheel-to-wheel battles became must-watch TV, but they also gained him a reputation for being reckless. The name Mad Max wasn't just about his speed, it was about his unapologetic approach to racing. One of the most infamous moments that solidified his nickname came in 2018 when he clashed with Sebastian Vettel in China.
Where does that leave him on the way out?
Verstappen on the inside of Vettel, they have touched!
Max.
That was inevitable!
Verstappen went for an ambitious move on the inside, but instead of making a clean pass, he misjudged the braking zone and sent both himself and Vettel spinning. Critics immediately called him out, accusing him of being too impatient, but that was just one of many moments where Verstappen's aggression overshadowed his raw talent. Whether it was forcing Lando Norris off track in Mexico or refusing to back down against Lewis Hamilton in high-stakes battles, Verstappen showed time and time again that he wasn't afraid to push the limits, sometimes too far. But what made Mad Max truly infamous wasn't just his driving, it was his mouth. Over the team radio, Verstappen had some of the most heated, uncensored reactions F1 had ever seen. In 2018, after a controversial collision with Esteban Ocon, Verstappen erupted with a flurry of insults, calling Ocon an idiot.
What an idiot! What an idiot!
And even confronting him in the paddock after the race. The FIA had to step in multiple times to remind him about professional conduct, but Verstappen wasn't about to change. His fiery personality and aggressive nature made him one of the most exciting and controversial drivers on the grid. And yet, for all the chaos, Verstappen's Mad Max persona brought him undeniable success. With multiple championships under his belt and an almost unstoppable dominance, he proved that sometimes controlled chaos is exactly what it takes to be the best. But while Verstappen's nickname came from his wild side, the next driver on this list wasn't just aggressive, he was outright disastrous. Crasher Pastor Maldonado. There have been reckless drivers in Formula One history, and then there was Pastor Maldonado. If Verstappen was aggressive but calculated, Maldonado was aggressive but completely unpredictable. His nickname Crashtor wasn't just a playful jab, it was a brutally honest reflection of his career. While some drivers earned their fame through podiums and championships, Maldonado became legendary for the sheer number of accidents he managed to rack up in such a short period of time. Maldonado's rookie season in 2011 was a sign of things to come. He managed to score just one single point the entire season, but what stood out wasn't his lack of results. It was the number of races he failed to finish. Out of 19 races, Maldonado retired from 7, and the majority of those DNFs were due to crashes. If there was an accident happening somewhere on the track, chances were Crashtor was involved. He didn't just crash in races, he crashed in practice sessions, qualifying laps, and even warm-ups. His most infamous moment came in 2012 when he crashed into Lewis Hamilton during the Spanish Grand Prix. The move was so reckless that even experienced commentators were left speechless. It wasn't just an aggressive attempt at overtaking, it was a complete miscalculation that sent Hamilton straight into the barriers. And this wasn't a one-time mistake. Maldonado had a habit of making bizarre, unnecessary moves that often left him and his competitors completely out of the race. The F1 community quickly latched onto the nickname Crashtor, and it became a meme in itself. Fans would joke that Maldonado had a special ability to find the walls, even on tracks where crashes seemed impossible. Eventually, his reputation caught up with him. By the time his F1 career ended, he had retired from an astonishing 29 out of 96 races. No team wanted to take a risk on him anymore. His talent behind the wheel was undeniable, but his lack of control made him one of the most infamous drivers in F1 history. But not all nicknames are a source of embarrassment. Some are a mark of pure dominance, and few drivers embodied cool, calculated racing like the Iceman. While some drivers were known for their fiery tempers and aggressive outbursts, Kimi Räikkönen was the complete opposite. He didn't yell on the radio, he didn't get caught up in drama, he simply drove. And that ice-cold demeanor is exactly how he became known as the Iceman. Throughout his career, Räikkönen had a reputation for being one of the most unfazed, emotionless drivers on the grid. His ability to stay calm under pressure was legendary, but so was his dry, often hilarious personality.
Used to have Doc and unfortunately died, but...
One of the most famous moments that defined the Iceman came before his first ever F1 race. While most rookies would be a nervous wreck before their big debut, Kimi, he was caught napping, literally. While his team prepared for the event, Räikkönen was off in the corner getting some sleep. That kind of unbothered attitude carried throughout his career. Whether he was battling for race wins or stuck in the midfield, his voice on the team radio rarely changed. He didn't scream at his engineers or panic under pressure. He simply stated what he needed, often with as few words as possible. Even in one of the most dramatic F1 seasons ever, 2007, Räikkönen remained the Iceman. He entered the final race of the season third in the championship standings, with Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso ahead of him. The odds were against him, but in classic Räikkönen fashion, he didn't let the pressure get to him. He drove a flawless race, snatched the win, and secured his first and only F1 title. While Hamilton and Alonso were caught up in their internal war at McLaren, Räikkönen simply focused on the job and took the crown. But perhaps the most Iceman moment of all came in 2009 during the Malaysian Grand Prix. As torrential rain caused the race to be delayed, most drivers stayed suited up, ready to jump back in the car. Kimi, he changed into a t-shirt and shorts, grabbed an ice cream, and walked off to relax. That moment alone cemented his nickname in F1 history. While the Iceman was cool and composed, our next driver was the complete opposite, chaotic, unpredictable, and living life at full speed. Formula One has seen its fair share of aggressive, unpredictable drivers, but few embodied the win or crash trying mentality quite like James Hunt. He was the ultimate playboy racer, charismatic, fearless, and completely reckless both on and off the track. His nickname, Hunt the Shunt, was more than just a catchy rhyme. It was a brutally honest description of his high-risk driving style. Hunt was never the kind of driver to play it safe. He took every opportunity to push the limits, often to the point of disaster. If there was a risky overtake to be made, Hunt was taking it, no matter the consequences. One of the most infamous moments of his career came at the 1976 Japanese Grand Prix. It was the final race of the season, and Hunt was locked in an intense championship battle with his rival Niki Lauda.
Try making a passing manoeuvre. And Patrick Depay has taken the lead of this motor race. Patrick Depay first, James Hunt second. Now, is James Hunt in trouble?
The race started under treacherous conditions, with heavy rain making the track almost undrivable. While most drivers hesitated, Hunt charged forward, determined to finish the race at any cost. His aggressive approach paid off. He finished third, securing just enough points to win his first and only Formula One championship. But the way he won left many questioning whether he had pushed things too far. Lauda, who had suffered a near-fatal crash earlier that season, famously retired from the race, saying, "My life is worth more than a title." Hunt, however, had no such reservations. But Hunt the Shunt wasn't just about his on-track performances, it was also about his wild lifestyle. He was known for partying the night before races, chain-smoking in the paddock, and even showing up to interviews barefoot. In an era where F1 drivers were often seen as larger-than-life figures, Hunt took things to another level. His off-track antics became just as legendary as his racing career. He once admitted to sleeping with over 5,000 women and was rumored to have drunk champagne minutes before jumping into the cockpit. Despite his reckless nature, Hunt was undeniably talented. He may have crashed often, but when he was in control, he was one of the fastest drivers on the grid. His rivalry with Niki Lauda remains one of the most iconic in motorsport history, even inspiring the 2013 film Rush. Hunt's career may have been short-lived, but his legacy, both as a driver and as one of F1's most colorful personalities, lives on. And while Hunt was all about chaos, our next driver earned his nickname through pure intelligence. Instead of brute force, he relied on strategy, precision, and a calculated approach to become one of F1's all-time greats. In Formula One, there are two types of drivers: those who race with pure instinct and aggression, and those who play the long game, making every move with careful precision. Alain Prost was the latter. He wasn't known for wild overtakes or fearless risks. Instead, he was known for being the smartest man on the grid. His strategic approach to racing earned him the nickname the Professor. And for good reason. Prost didn't just drive, he studied his races like a chess master, always thinking several moves ahead. Unlike drivers like James Hunt or Ayrton Senna, Prost didn't rely on raw speed to dominate. Instead, he focused on consistency, tire management, and energy conservation. His philosophy was simple: win the race at the slowest possible speed. That might sound counterintuitive in a sport where speed is everything, but Prost's method worked. While others burned through their tires early in the race, Prost would maintain a steady pace, saving his tires and fuel for the crucial final lap. It was a strategy that often left his competitors frustrated. They knew he wasn't the fastest, but somehow he always found a way to be in the right position when it mattered most. One of the most defining moments of Prost's career came in the 1989 Japanese Grand Prix. Locked in a bitter championship battle with his biggest rival, Ayrton Senna, Prost knew that all he had to do was finish ahead of him to secure the title. Senna, however, was determined to win at all costs. On lap 47, Senna attempted an aggressive move to overtake Prost, but Prost, anticipating the move, held his ground. The two collided, sending both cars off the track.
Senna's looking for, and he's going to go out! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic! This is what we were fearing might happen during the race.
While Senna managed to get his car restarted and eventually won the race, he was later disqualified, handing the championship to Prost. It was a controversial moment, but it showcased Prost's calculated racing style. He didn't need to be the fastest, he just needed to be the smartest. Despite his genius, Prost's methodical approach often made him one of the most underrated champions in F1 history. Fans were drawn to the flashy, aggressive driving of racers like Senna, but those who understood the sport recognized Prost's brilliance. With 4 world championships and 51 race wins, the Professor cemented his place as one of F1's greatest drivers. While Prost's nickname reflected intelligence, the next driver on our list had a completely different approach. He didn't get his nickname from fans or commentators. He gave it to himself, and it turned out to be the perfect representation of his personality. Some drivers earn their nicknames through years of competition, legendary performances, or moments of controversy. Daniel Ricciardo, he just picked his own. And somehow the Honey Badger became the perfect representation of his racing style and personality. Ricciardo first adopted the nickname after watching a documentary about honey badgers, small, unassuming animals that are known for their fearlessness and tenacity. Despite their size, honey badgers will take on animals far larger than themselves, refusing to back down even when the odds are against them. Ricciardo saw himself in that mentality. On the surface, he's one of the friendliest, most easygoing drivers in the paddock, known for his wide grin and contagious laugh. But when the helmet goes on, he becomes an aggressive, fearless competitor.
Laps to go, and there goes Daniel Ricciardo on Sergio Perez, moves up into second place, goes onto the grass, almost gets hit by Perez. Vettel almost gets down the inside of Sergio Perez. Ricciardo stays in second place.
Always ready to attack no matter who's in front of him. That aggressive racing style was best showcased in his time at Red Bull. Ricciardo became famous for his late-breaking overtakes, often making daring moves that left both fans and commentators in shock. His ability to dive bomb into corners at the last second made him one of the most exciting drivers to watch. He wasn't afraid to take risks, and more often than not,
Time in Formula One, Daniel Ricciardo stands on top of the podium.
those risks paid off. One of his most famous moments came at the 2018 Chinese Grand Prix, where he pulled off a series of breathtaking overtakes to win the race, proving that the Honey Badger was just as dangerous as its real-life counterpart. But Ricciardo's career hasn't been without struggle. Despite his talent, he never quite found himself in a car capable of fighting for a championship. He left Red Bull in search of a new challenge, but stints at Renault and McLaren failed to deliver the results he had hoped for. Even so, Ricciardo never lost his infectious energy or his honey badger mentality. Whether he was fighting for podiums or battling in the midfield, he raced with the same fearless spirit that made him one of the most beloved drivers on the grid. His nickname might have started as a joke, but the honey badger has become an identity, one that perfectly sums up his mix of charm, aggression, and resilience. From fearless warriors to strategic masterminds, Formula One nicknames reveal the personalities behind the helmets. Whether it's Mad Max's aggression, Hunt the Shunt's recklessness, or the Iceman's unshakable composure, these names tell the stories of some of the greatest drivers in history. But which one is your favorite? Do you think Crash Tour Maldonado deserves his legendary status? Or is the Honey Badger the most fitting nickname in F1? Let me know in the comments, and if you love F1 stories like these, make sure to like and subscribe for more.